Hello and welcome to the Often Partisan video podcast week 2. I'm going to try and not make it as long as last time, but it is done in only one take and it is done on my rather old laptop. I'm sorry if the quality is not brilliant. It is something I'm working on. Can't do much about that at the moment. So first of all, on the pitch. It's good to be talking about football on the pitch for a change. 2 wins, 2 goals, 2 clean sheets, 6 points. Breathe a sigh of relief. It means we're almost certainly staying up. It wasn't the greatest football, let's be honest. Brentford wasn't too bad. It was exciting at times and open, but the Blackpool game was probably one of the worst I've seen for a while. But we grounded out, we actually grounded out, and that's the main thing, is that we got the points, and that now we can look to the rest of the season and think, we can try for mid-table. There's a bit of question about whether we should bring in young players to, blood them, because now games don't really mean much. The differential between places is not there, in that you're playing for pride only. Unlike in the Premier League, where when we were last in the Premier League, it was 1.8 million a place. There's nothing like that in the Championship. So, it's like, yeah, we can finish top 10, but big deal. Doesn't really mean that much in the grand scheme of things. I ascribe to the belief that if young players are good enough, they'll get to play regardless whether it's competitive or not, and that they should be there on merit and merit only. Therefore, playing them in dead rubbers for the sake of it doesn't necessarily mean that, you should. I think we have to look at contract situations, in that if a player isn't likely to be offered a new contract, then they shouldn't play. For example, Will Packwood, who I thought wouldn't sign a contract in the summer, has only played 1 substitute appearance this season, has not looked that brilliant for the under-21s. I don't think he's going to make it, therefore I don't think he will play. Charlie Adams, on the other hand, who was offered a contract about a month ago, who was impressed out on loan, who Gary Rowe has heard about, I could see him training with the first team and possibly making the bench. It's something you've got to look for the future for next season. Fair enough. So, looking to the future, the EGM. The EGM is next week, next Thursday. And, the big question, I guess, is whether it's actually going to go ahead. The word from Hong Kong is it might not actually do so. The reason being is Carson was called the EGM, not the IHL. And that means Carson has to pay for it himself. Now, the EGM does not look to have any legitimacy. No shareholders have received circulars. From what I know, I've spoken to 3 now. There's no way that they can count votes, because they haven't got access to the share registry, so they can't count votes properly, which takes away from the legitimacy of the event. Now, if you know that something's not going to actually, be seen as anything more than just, you got a bunch of guys together, big deal, then why would you pay out £25,000 to do so? The only reason I think it would go ahead is because Carson's not the most logical people in the world, and because his advisors aren't either. Carson's getting advised on legal matters by 2 people. One of them is Peter Panu, say no more. The other one's an interesting guy. He's a guy by the name of Isaac Ramat Sadiq. Now, Isaac Sadiq is interesting because he was imprisoned for embezzling a client's account. He was disbarred from being a solicitor, and he's bankrupt. He was bankrupted as well. So you've got this guy who is no longer allowed to call himself a solicitor, who's done time, who's Carson's legal advisor. I actually met Isaac once, and it gives you a good example as to why he's, the sort of regard he's held in legal circles in Hong Kong. He was sat in the public gallery as I was during Carson's trial. Yet during the breaks, when Carson's legal team would file into the little ante-room to discuss tactics or what they had for dinner that night, he would go in there with them. And I also was a bit strange because I had no idea who he was. And I asked, as I was friendly with Graham Harris and Kevin Egan on Carson's legal team, who he was. And they wouldn't tell me. Now, whether it was because they didn't know, which I think is unlikely, or were embarrassed, or couldn't, I don't know. But I also thought it was strange that he was allowed into it. And I do think it's odd that Carson is taking legal advice from someone who is quite clearly, I would say, unfit to dispense that, but maybe I'm wrong. Talking about Carson's trial, of course, it's the appeal next Wednesday. I don't think he'll. Don't think he will succeed. I think Carson knows he won't succeed. There was a piece in the South China Morning Post in January where a Court of Appeal judge by the name of Mr. Justice Michael Lunn was interviewed, and Judge Lunn basically said there was no prima facie case for Carson's appeal, and that doesn't surprise me because, as my co-author will tell you, the Court of Appeal is stuffed by mainly prosecution type judges, the same sort of draconian judges who are in the district court. They'll have no interest in releasing Carson, and I don't think they will. Carson will be working on the Court of Final Appeal. Now, the Court of Final Appeal will be 12 to 18 months away from now, and he would have a much greater chance of success because you get some really, really knowledgeable people in the Court of Final Appeal. So I think he's more likely to get it. We'll see. Hopefully that will be no more than an academic footnote, because hopefully by then the club will be sold. Which neatly brings me to my final bit, which is about the sale of the football club. Now, from speaking to people in Hong Kong, I've now had confirmation, absolute confirmation, that Ernst & Young require Carson Young's approval to sell the club. There's a reason for this. Birmingham City represents more than 95% of Birmingham International Holdings turnover. Therefore, to sell the club is what's called a very substantial disposal. There are certain rules the stock exchange lay upon you to do so, and one of those rules is that you have to have shareholder approval. Obviously, Carson, as a major shareholder, would have to give his approval, or you'd have to get it past his 20% block. So it means whatever happens, whatever Ernst & Young do, they'll go talk to Carson. Now, there is a school of thought that that Ernst & Young can go up to Carson and say, look, here's the offer we got for the club. Take it, or we'll sell it from under you because we'll just liquidate Birmingham International Holdings. You'll lose everything. That I do not believe will work. The reason I don't believe it will work is Carson is not without his backers, and they are still behind him. Still very much behind him, according to sources in Hong Kong. Now, whether that means they'll lend him more money, or what it means, I'm not entirely sure, and to be honest, I don't think I really want to know. What it does mean to me, though, is that direct confrontation is unlikely to work. And the horror scenario, and I hope to God this does not happen, is that Ernst & Young decide they can't do what they're all supposed to do, put in their final report to the courts, resign as receivers, and then they are unsecured creditors for like a massive amount of money, with a winding up petition, and we get a whole other load of crap going on. Don't want that to happen. What I think has got to happen is that Ernst & Young needs to set down Carson and say, look, here's an offer we got for the club, and this is how we're going to keep the relisting for you. That way, Carson gets to keep something, a mechanism to make money, a mechanism he knows how to make money, and the club gets sold. Everyone's happy. Everyone's a winner. And there are people out there who are interested in buying the club who I think would be amenable to this sort of solution. And I don't just mean Jeremy Ray here. There are definitely other people out there, no question. So I think it's going to, as much as it sticks in the craw, I think there has to be some sort of real politics here, and we have to accept that Carson is going to get something, and he's going to walk away from the table happy. Otherwise, we're doomed, or we're doomed to at least another couple more years of crap. So there you go. If you have any questions you'd like to ask me to answer on this video, because I'm intending on doing it at least once a week, drop me a line, almutier@ofconpartisan.co.uk. Alternatively, follow me on Twitter at @ofcon_partisan, or on Facebook, facebook.com/ofconpartisan. All the links, by the way, will be in the description below, so you can just click it. If you want to sign up for the mailing list, go to the website, ofconpartisan.co.uk. It's on the right-hand side of the website. Put in your email. Emails go out about once a week. If you want to buy the book, there's a link below to haircutsandleagueups.co.uk, where you can buy an electronic copy, or you can buy a hardcover copy to be posted out to you. If you want to meet me to pay in cash or something like that, then drop me a line. I'm sure I can arrange something. Feel free to drop me a line if you want to ask me a question. So that's it for now. I'm hopefully going to do something about the appeal on Tuesday. Until then, keep right on.